Okay, welcome participants to Breakout Session 2. so nanti dah start lah. Okay, tak apa. So basically, our Breakout Session 2 shall commence right now. And I hope you guys ready. And the Breakout 2 session will be chaired by Dr. Sharona. Please give a round of applause, please. Okay, do we have the first presenter? Okay. So, Doctor, can we start now, Doctor?
Sure, definitely.
Okay.
Hello to everyone and welcome to our Jakarta conference. So I wish all of you luck. And can we start with Dr. Nani Ahmad?
Yes.
All right, so let me know whenever you are ready.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. So for this presentation, I'm on behalf of Dr. Nani and Dr. Randa Indonesia for the collaboration research from University Technology of Mara and Telkom University and the collaboration research between textile and interior design applications.
Dekat sikit mikrofon. Dekat sikit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. The voice is not very clear.
Okay. So with the research entitled Watch and Learn in Science, Interpreting Science in Textile Motif for Interior Design Applications. So the research background for the textile motif, as we know, that is not merely for decorative applications, but we can use this for the traditional meaning of textile is from function, from symbol of cultural, and then the identity, the system, and the work view from the textile and the application of patterning. And then the problems is from the increasing of misuse of pattern of traditional motif in contemporary design that need for interpretation before design application. So as we know, nowadays people just use the design from the textile, just not with the approaching of what is meaning, but just for the approaching in the decorative element only. So based on that, the research problem is because of the designer often apply motif purely for aesthetic only, not the approaching of what is used and what is the meaning and what is traditional application used. And it can misinterpretations in the design application, especially in interior design that applying hall, ballroom or dining or every section of interior applications. And then it's become a risk of cultural implementations that one of another meaning in traditional ways is not used in the exact ways of the design. And to answer that one, this research aims to analyze symbolic meanings of traditional textile motif and their relevance to interior design. That is the objective of the work is the interpretation of textile in basic of cultural analysis, and then to identify symbolic values, and then to evaluate how motif is suitable into application of interior. So in the research we use for the application of literature review from the motif represent, like how is the cultural identity from the motif can be applied, what is the meaning from the spiritual and philosophical values, and then how past study can focus mainly to traditional attire such as textile or anything that related to how traditional can be applied into application in interior. And the symbol is to apply in interior design practice. For example, in the ballroom is open space and how can use a detailing for application of the big area of interior. And the culture information, that the framework of design and past research and everything that archival of motif and textile related. And to approach this research is using qualitative research by visual analysis of textile motif, semiotic interpretations, and literature review on focus on understanding function, how the community and in which area is use that kind of pattern. And then the visual and formal analysis, like in what kind of application, how is the meaning, and what is related into the interpretation of interior, and then the evaluation of design relevance, that can we use this one as a sensitive topic for application the textile into interior or not. And then the application development for design guidelines. So it's become the method that can apply by all of the designer using the method for the AicQoL into the application section. And the finding of this research is like we know that textile motif contains layered meaning of symbolic. It's not only one or two or three meaning, but it's connected each other. And each part of area from, for example, in Southeast Asia, in Malaysia, in Thailand, and even in Indonesia, even with similar interpretation of textile motif, but they have a different application. For example, it's based on the religious approach. In Thailand, we know that the Buddhism approach, they can apply the symbolic in creature like the naga, dragon, or anything. But in Indonesia, even the Buddhism is already related to Indonesia in the past, but application of Islamic approach is restricted from the creatures that applied in the Buddhism. But in Indonesia, we can apply with the approach of Islamic value, but only in restricted area and not all of the section like in Thailand. So even we have learned about the motif, but we should use the application is depend on the religions and the conditions and the design that approach in the design present. And the functions of visual communication system about the meaning, the nature, spiritual belief, ancestral knowledge, or anything related, it should be connect each other, depend on how the pattern used in the room, in what kind of room, or in what kind of application in interior design, detailing, and everything related to sacred or culturally restricted. So not to take the base of this one is really sensitive area that everything textile approach should be considered. And the implications of the research in the discussions is, for the first slide, should consider the spatial identity that cultural ambience and the culture make a new storytelling of interior design. So for example, in the lobby, if you want to apply a new textile that basically from traditional, we should use what kind of ambience from the main hall want to represent. For example, the welcoming for the staff with the warm and harmonious, and we can find what kind of pattern in naturally, not just take a pattern that usually we know. For example, in Indonesia, in the everything area that we know the parang pattern, but actually parang pattern is a really sacred pattern for the sultanate, and it's only used for the sultan. But right now, every lobby we come, we can see the parang pattern without knowing what is the meaning of in the face of the hall or the room application. So if you want to use like to welcoming guests, we can use the pattern from the flower, the meaning maybe for the Melati flower, everything related to welcome the guests, or in Bali motif pattern of the flower in Bali. So that represent how the textile in traditional is related and the meaning of what kind of the room and what is the ambience that the room want to represent. And then the semiotic interpretation like cultural heritage and contemporary interior design. So to combine between how the style of interior can apply with traditional, because not all of can connect in one of story between traditional and contemporary. So it's using the lining or the shape of interior elements and to combine with the traditional of textile pattern. For example, we can see in this room, like from the circular, is we can see that in this one is the repetition of circle and not only just the shape of lining and short lining. So that combination between the traditional one and what is the combination of the room, the lining, the circle, or everything is combined together. And then designer must apply motif ethically and responsibility depend on how its meaning, its relations, and how its sacred placing of the textile itself. And the conclusion for this research is traditional motif should be understood as cultural science, not surface decoration. So not only just to put because it's beauty or it's unique, but what is the meaning behind its pattern? Because in the past, usually decorative element in textile become one of the communication between the people into the kind of political situation too. So when we bring that pattern into this kind of era in section of interior without knowing anything, it's become a big restriction for the development of design for the textile. And then the recommendation is like to strengthen cultural literacy in design education, like to know more between the placement of textiles in each cultural identity and its pattern as per archival, big archival. So when designer want to know what is textile meaning for this one, we can have the recommendation for application, and we can to apply for how to the process of design thinking in the application of interior design, and to develop motif application guidelines for designer like that, and to support ethical and able design practice related to textile design application for interior. Thank you. Any question?
Thank you, Martin. Any question or feedback from the audiences, please? All right, so my dear, can I have a few words with you?
Yes.
Can you hear me? All right, so first of all, can you explain a little bit more about the relationship between research problem and objectives that you mentioned in your presentation? According to your paper, you have 4 problems that usually when we appoint aim and objectives, it's kind of like we have the objective to answer or solve the problems and issues. Can you connect these 2 together for me?
Oh, okay. So from the basic of the problem is like the designer usually only just to put the detail without the knowledge, meaning, and the interpretation of the culture identity in the pattern of textile. So in the objective to answer that one is like how to make they understand the process of application of textile.
My dear, can you go one by one? Problem identification number 1 is designers often apply motifs purely for aesthetics, right?
Yes. Yes.
So you take it as a problem. Is it a problem that people use motif only for what it looks like? So first of all, can you defend your research problem by giving me some citation? There is no reference. Is it your own personal preferences, or is it like self findings? There is something missing in your research, starting from research problem, lack of citation, lack of references. Maybe you had it, but it's not in your presentation, right?
Okay, I understand what you mean. So like the basic research from the citation for to do is this research as the one of the problem and to answer that kind of problem. So actually for the research condition actually is based on the observation in the condition in the interior area of hotel, ballroom, or anything related to interior application. So we review in the observation case like from one to another or in the toilet application, like it's not synchronous to the during the observation, like so it's become the basic problem, like not in the place that kind of research doing for based on the observation first, and the second for the literature. Actually, in the textile application, it's used from the basic research, the basic what is it? The research gap between the textile and interior. So like, can we use the new storyline of the textile to become an interior ambient without the process of shaping or anything, just related to the textile application for the interior. So based on that two problems, we can make
So, my dear, can you go to the page research problem?
Hang on.
If it's so possible, I can read for you. Okay, you have it there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. So, in the page for research problem, you have mentioned 4 problems, which to me it looks like you have one main problem, which is like having enough information regarding cultural a story behind the patterns.
Okay.
The first problem, you mentioned that designers often apply motifs purely for aesthetic. That means designers, they don't care about the culture or the meaning and the symbols of patterns, right?
Yes.
So any literature that support that, I mean, designers take it as, I mean, it's they use it only for aesthetic, or is it your assumption?
This one is from the observations, like as I mentioned before.
My dear, when you're doing scientific research, you cannot say that according to my observation, because designers' idea of using a pattern or textile is not something that you observe it. You can send them questionnaire, ask them whether they know the story behind of the motifs, or do they use it only because of the look, or is it because of the cultural conflicts or whatever. So you cannot say that by your observation you have found out that designers often apply motifs only for the look. This is not it's like, I mean, scientific research, my dear. You cannot say that this kind of problem you have found out by observation. You should come up with some literature or something that defends your problem identification. To me, it has a lot of things to work on it. I was hoping that you had references to support your research, which is not, you forgot to put in your presentation.
Okay.
Do you get my
Yes.
point, my dear?
Okay, I got what you mean in this one. Because I not put the reference on the research problem that you mentioned.
Yeah, there should be some references there. Otherwise, you have to explain, and when you explain, there is no references here that I can rely on the scientific references. So I'm going to ask you, and you tell me that it's based on observation. So this is not something that you can write it on and shape your whole research based on an observation. So that's the first issue that I had with you. And the second one is the relationship between aim and objectives that you had and the problems. So it's not fully covered. The research problem is not covered. The literature review, the next page, it's very important for you, at least in this page, you should coming up with some references. So when you talk about literature review, so we want to know which references you are referring in, right?
Okay, I got what you mean.
And when your research is about all these like motifs and patterns, you could put it some more illustration, for example, in discussion and implications. So designers might apply motifs ethically and responsibly. So put some pictures, because I have no idea from your slide where is your geographical scope of the study. Is it like, Indonesia? Are you talking about Malaysia? So if it's gonna be like, or are you talking worldwide regarding like, British fabric, Indian fabric? So I'm lost with your slide, but according to your presentation, you mentioned that it's basically in Asia, in Jakarta. So you have to write it down, or I suggest you to use more illustration.
Okay, Doctor, can I add what you mentioned before from the literature review?
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
Please do. I know that you have the passion and the topic is very interesting, but I really want you to take it more seriously when you call this research as a scientific research, right? So it's lots of work that you have done, and I would like you to improve.
Okay. Actually, it has the literature review. I will add it because it is my mistake.
Yeah, you have to add all the citations, or when you don't have references in your slide, you can simply say that I don't have the citation in mind, I don't have the reference in mind, but don't say that your research problem was based on your observation, because it doesn't make sense. That designers often apply motifs only for the beauty, and you can say that it's based on my observation. Honey, this is not something that you can observe. It should be a study. All right. So, thank you, and good luck for your future researchers. Always learn from other presentations that I'm here with you, and I hope you can learn something from me too. Q&A sessions. Please have in mind that I'm here just to help.
Okay, Assalamualaikum and selamat petang. Today, my name is Kamal, with my co-author from our paper. Okay, the title of our paper is a morpho-map. So, it is a hybrid method for speculative futures using projection method bots. Okay, for introduction, I will explain to you briefly what the paper is all about. So the first is the context. The context is limitation of static media. Then the gap is the current digital practice. The innovation is the SSF morphomaps. And the objective is the workflow and the effectiveness. Okay, for the context, the limitation of static media is static media cannot convey a dynamic system and not show a temporal change. For the gap is projection mapping create a living canvas, and the existing not tell a process or a story. The existing meaning the static bot usually not tell a story or not tell a narrative for the static bot. Okay, for the innovation of SSFF morpho map, it is a hybrid presentation using a static board, manual static board, and we combine with the projection mapping. For example, you imagine this is a static board, then we combine with the projection mapping. The projection mapping is a projection from the projector. So these two method we combine to get another method. So it is called a morphomap. Okay, so the objective is to see the flow of the hybrid system and to evaluate the effectiveness of the presentation method. Okay, so as you can see, this is the problem of the static board. The clarity but rigid and static, the lack of temporal dimension. It's also lack of narrative and lack of process. It only can show before and after the process. So versus the complex reality. So the complex reality means usually the immersive or the video can show the flood, the time or the crisis. So as you can see, this is the gap that we try to create, or the gap that we fill in the gap. Okay. So here it comes the morphomap. So morphomap will test the narrative clarity, the temporal comprehension, and the conceptual engagement. Okay, so the solution of the morphomap is okay. So the solution of SSF morphomap, as you can see, the mapping here is the speculative mapping that we speculate the futures, and we combine with the static board plus the projection mapping. So if we're using only the static board, maybe the viewer cannot see the future that we speculate. So we combine with projection mapping so that the viewer can view or feel the speculative futures. Okay, next. Okay, this is the methodology of our paper. So firstly, we set up the system. We have the projector, we have the static board, and we have the video, or we have the narrative, or we have the future projection that are different from the static board. Usually the left corner image is a video, but unfortunately cannot play, but I will show it here. I have the video. Okay, the reason we combine these two methods is, if you can see here, this is the static board, the gray one, and the highlighted, the red line is the projection mapping projection mapping method. So the projection mapping method, we can custom it into a various size of projection. So that means with a single projector, we can create a different size on the static board, on the manual board. So for the audience in the hall, I can show you some example of the setting. So like this, the camera. Okay, I show it again for okay. So this is our method. We using the manual board, then we overlay with the projection mapping. So you can see the board is static. Tunjukkan Prof jap. So then come. So this is the method we use
Not
the projection
yet.
mapping.
It's not very clear. I mean, you can show it to the audience. It's okay for me because I cannot see from
Okay.
the screen. Thank you.
Okay, sorry for the circumstances. Okay. This is what I mean. We create the method of morphomap. So as you can see, this is the static board. So it cannot portray the narrative or the future speculation. So with the projection mapping, the static board we overlay with the video. So it will give more storytelling about the static board. Okay. Okay, next. Sorry for the technical problem. Basically, this is the best part, but the video also cannot play. So, very disappointed also. Okay, as you can see, this is the static board. So the static image cannot tell you a story, cannot tell you a narrative, or cannot portray a process. But this is the layering of video or animation that we can portray onto the static board. So this is the water level rise in this area. So this, you can see the first layer, a big rise, and then it will cover the green area. So it will flood. So this video actually portray our findings that the static board will overlay with the projection mapping that will show all the layers, the animation, all the layers. So it will give more narrative to the viewers, or more narrative for the Okay, so as you can see, the layering here, so from the static board, it will portray the water level rise. So it will give you the warning that this area will be a water level rising. So with the projection, so the static board will become more lively and more will give you a bit of storytelling. So that's the different from the static board. Okay. Next. Okay, this is the combination of the future mapping, the SSFF mapping. So we speculate that the site will have this future projection. So you can see the plausible scenario, the probable scenario, the possible scenario, the preferable scenario, and the wildcard scenario. So for this scenario, it is best to develop with the or it is the best to show with the morphomap, because the morphomap will integrate it with the static board and the video or with the animation. As you can see, on the right is the static board, and on the left is the overlay video or animation of the future speculative about the site. So maybe the wildcard scenario is the most futuristic about the site. The site will become a city, a water city, autonomous water city. So if you can see, if I just sit and you just look at the board, it will seem a little bit bored. But if we portray it with the morphomap, it will be more convincing and will be more storytelling about the projection. So, okay, next. So this is the key finding for each of the speculative projection. Okay. So this is our discussion about the paper. So for the clarity, it will give more clarity about the board or the static board. Okay, for the narrative coherence or narrative storytelling, it will give more understanding to the audience about the narrative. Okay, so the visual accessibility, it will give more successful storytelling about the future speculated. Okay, so for the theoretical contextualization, this study confirmed that architect must have a multi-skill to address a complexity in terms of presentations. So this method will improve the clarity, will improve the narrative, and will improve the visual. So into the implication for pedagogy and practice and research. So for the pedagogy, it will give us easy or interactive way to show a complex idea into less complex presentation. So it will summarize the complexity or the complexity of the idea into a simpler way. Okay, for the professional practice, it will give a clear decision making for the client or for our decisions. Okay, for the future oriented research, maybe this method can be explored to another level or explore with various circumstances. Okay, next. Okay, so this is the conclusion, the overview and purpose, the proof of concept and result, the study, evaluation and limitation, and recommendation for future works. So definition. Okay, so the SSF move format is a hybrid representation method between manual board and immersive or between the projection mapping. So basically two method that we combine to become another method, another interactive methods. Okay, for the function, we dynamically overlay narrative, temporal and system element onto a static display, as you can see from the video or as you can see from our methodology. We overlay the dynamics and we overlay the narrative. Okay, so the benefit is it make complex scenario become clearer and understandable. Okay, for the application, the study demonstrate layering crisis trigger scenarios. Okay, for the outcome, the approach achieve greater narrative. Okay, so for the methodology, the evaluation was formative and exploratory. Okay, so that's all from me. Thank you.
So thank you, Malaysia. Any question or feedback from the dear audiences? Always very quiet. All right. Dr. Kamal. So the topic is very interesting and very helpful. Good job, well done. But there are still a few things that I want to check with you. So I know that most of you have received the template for these slides, but what I'm wondering is that how could you miss the list of references? So according to your slide, everything is fine, the graphic is good, it's not confusing, except one page that we will talk about it. But still, I'm a little bit confused. Regarding in your introduction page, you have mentioned only 2 references, Ishida and Saida Post. And sorry, 3. So for me, it's not like, I mean, you have a very new topic. It's very precise, and we need to have more references. You cannot only refer to 3 citations, and one of them is 2016. It's quite like, I mean, old, outdated. So I think you need to work on that, right? And with most of the data that you import, I mean, you have discussed about, I agree with you, and it was very informative, thank you. But can we go to the page, the solution? Yeah, SSFF morpho map. I'm 100% sure, agree with you that whatever you discuss, it's very beneficial, and I'm happy with your topic. But when it comes to the solution SSFF morpho map, yeah, here. So at the right column, you have scenario approach, and the subtitle, should I say, or maybe whatever, it's crisis wildcard, so preferable, possible, plausible, and probable. So from my understanding, can you tell me what are the difference between morpho map and the classic way of mapping? So the classic way of mapping has the same scenario too, right? Same projection mapping. Or better to say, can you explain this slide, only this page again?
Okay, I will explain, and thank you for the question. Correct. It is same. The SSF mapping is used to generate or to find a future speculative. So the morpho map is a method or a way of representation. So basically, the mapping is the first step, and then we insert or we use the morpho map for the presentation. Yes.
So what I meant is that I think in your slide, so what you need is to put one more box after the projection mapping, or you just put the word presentation. Because for you, morpho map is a way of presenting, right?
Yes, a way of presenting.
Yeah, but when it goes to this slide, it seems like you are comparing. So for me, it's something is missing here. According to what you said, it should be mentioning that it's the way of new presenting. For me, it's in this slide, it's a little bit confusing. Either you are comparing these two together, or is it like a scenario that you are going to explain to us what happens with morpho map? I cannot find any title for this slide. Is it like the solution? What do you mean? SSFF is the solution, or you are having the solution for SSFF morpho map?
This is the solution of the morpho map, means using the SSF mapping, we cannot portray the scenario building, the possible, the probable properly. So the solution is we represented it using the morphomet method. So the the SSF mapping will be more clear and will be more understandable. So that's what I mean with the slide.
Okay. Go ahead, sorry. I thought you were done.
Okay.
So that means here in the box, we have to make it like a static architectural board presentation, projection, mapping, presentation, something like that.
I see. Okay, thank you for the input and comments.
Maybe. Alright, so my please make it like, take it very seriously to put your list of references or some of the citation in your slide. I'm 100% sure that you had it in your paper, but it's not in this slide. And as far as I have all these slides in front of me, you only had 3 citations, 3 references, which one of them was quite like old. Otherwise, I enjoyed your presentation, and one more thing, you cannot face this screen back to the audience when you are presenting, my dear. One part you were very interactive by sharing the iPad or mobile to the audiences, ask them to watch the video. That was very interactive. That makes your conference interesting. On the other part, I've noticed that you were reading the slides by facing the screen and back to the audiences. I think it's not very appropriate.
Okay, sorry for the mistake.
Otherwise, thanks for the information that you shared with us. I like it.
Okay,
Good luck.
Thank you. Okay. Assalamualaikum, very good afternoon. So how are you, Dr. Sharona? Everything's good?
Hello, doctor. Thank you. I hope you're having a good day too. So your 10 minutes to start if you are ready by now.
Alright, okay, thank you very much. So, Assalamualaikum, very good.
Good luck. Good luck.
I appreciate that, alright? So, I will be presenting the recent research about the stress and attitudes among elderly in Malaysia. So together with me is our collaborators, Mr. Adrian Sugiarto. So he will be presenting online, even though he is from Indonesia. So I will pass over to Mr. Adrian first, and then I will follow through after that. Okay, Adrian, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ghazali. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and all the audience. Welcome to Jakarta. Welcome to Indonesia.
Thank you.
Okay. First of all, the background of the study is as follow. First is around five background in this research. First in Malaysia, because first in Malaysia the elderly population rising to over 10% by 2019 and expected to exceed 6 million by 2040. The global population aged 60 years and above is projected to rise from 600 million in 2000 to nearly 2 billion by 2050. In Malaysia, Malaysia reflect the urgent concern, recording over 500,000 accidents and more than 7,000 fatalities in 2016. Speeding, fatigue, mobile phone usage, and aggression remain the prevalent in Malaysia. Attitudinal aspects are similarly critical in safe driving performance. Next, here's the literature review we use in this study. First, as longevity increases, more older adults continue to drive, maintaining mobility and independence. Although older adults involved in fewer accidents, their injuries are often more severe. Finding from Iran reported 1,300 elderly casualties with individuals aged 45 and above, showing significantly higher fatality risk. In Malaysia, elderly 60 to 50 to 74 years and very elderly 75 plus drivers demonstrate substantial vulnerability, with 43.7% of RTA, road traffic accident cases, resulting in death and head injuries being the most common. Age-related declines, including slower visual processing, impaired motion detection, increased glare sensitivity, and reduced motor coordination, further elevate crash risk. Next. This is about the driving rehabilitation for elderly. First, occupational therapists address functional limitation through assessment, training, environmental modification, and rehabilitation to promote independence and reduce the risk of accident. Stress, defined as an emotional or psychological strain, and stress influence driving safety in later life, contributing to fatigue, depression, and reduced independence. Aim and objective in this study, a cross-sectional study was conducted to investigate the relationship between perceived stress and attitudes towards safe driving among elderly drivers. Objective of this study first, to investigate the prevalence of RTS among the elderly. Second, to identify the traffic offenses that are commonly committed by the respondents. And the third is to investigate the association of perceived stress and level of risk among elderly. Next, back to Dr. Ghazali.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Adrian. Right, I shall continue with the method, right? So, we purposely select Johor Bahru and Selangor in Malaysia, West Malaysia, because of the highest numbers of road traffic accident which has been reported from Royal Malaysia Police. So we can see from the statistic that 83,607 cases, okay, in Selangor, and then 41,161 cases in Johor Bahru. So this is the main reason why we purposely choose Selangor and Johor Bahru as our study location. Okay, so this cross-sectional study, actually we use the online survey. So we use the two validated questionnaire. One of the questionnaire is locally developed, which is known as AicQoL2026 or Attitude to a Safe Driving Scale. So it consists of 46 items to measure the attitudes of the drivers, and it uses 5 Likert scale. Okay, in bahasa we call it 1 is sangat tidak setuju, strongly disagree, followed by the maximum 5 is strongly agree, and then our second instrument is actually PSS10, which is the Malay version of the perceived stress scale. Okay, this is the commonly questionnaire that we use to measure the stress level among our patient in clinical. Alright, so it has 6 negative and 4 positive words rated from 0, which is none, and then 4 is frequent. Alright, so a purpose sampling was used to obtain the data from 2 states, as I mentioned earlier, and then we have chosen statistic version 5, SPSS5, to analyze the data. Alright, so this is the result. So let's see the demographic first. I think this is the very common result that we need to share. So we only managed to get 71 respondents in total, and most of the respondents actually aged between 60 and 69 years old. And then the demographic profile shows that most respondents were male. Alright, so 95.8%, followed by female, and majorities are Malay. Alright. So our driving history indicates that most participants had long-term driving experience. Okay, so and then they got licensed more than 20 years, where on average it is between 31 to 40 years of driving experience. And then the annual driving distance varies actually, and we can see that the range is between 1,001 kilometers to 5,000 kilometers for the year. So respondent mainly drove, driving for work, and then followed by other purposes. And then we can see that 21.1% driving just for recreational. Okay, most of the respondent actually has not been involved in any accident, alright, or not become a witness of any accident as well. Alright, so personality types were predominantly either type A or type B. So health issues were reported that 63.4% of the participants has a chronic condition such as diabetes, hypertension and cataracts. Okay, so these are the list of the traffic offences. If you can see that even though it's a bit small font, okay. So the highest score is actually speeding. So 52.1%. When we see from the graph, so speeding dominating, always dominating, either from young drivers or old drivers. So I think it's kind of trend in Malaysia or in Indonesia. Speeding is number one, followed by non-compliant with seatbelt, 39.4%, and then use a double line. Okay, so very dangerous offense, 29.6%, and then against the red light, 19.3%. Using a mobile phone, 16.9%. And then using an emergency lane, 15.5%. And then poor signaling, that means they do not use any signal when they turn, right? 14.1%. The bottom three is actually careless, overtaking cues, and then no respect to others. We have 2.8 elderly who's conveniently declared that they do not respect other drivers, right? Which is very good, very honest response. All right, so this is the statistical analysis. So we just share the significant findings from the entire papers. So the perceived stress and then the risk of road traffic accident. So we can see that so there are 6 domains of the ASDS. So generally, these 6 domains is very important, where it gives a clear pictures about Malaysian and Indonesian trade in terms of attitude in driving. Because we have conducted the previous study where we translate the ASDS into Bahasa Indonesia, so we can see that the consistency of the 6 domains, which I will not further explain the domain, but we can see here the score of each domain of ASDS. We can categorize it, and we usually categorize it either high risk, neither high or low, and then low risk. So we can see that in domain 1, or in fact, in majority of the domain, our elderly is considered as low risk. Okay. However, there are few items. Okay. For example, domain 5. Okay. This is more on the respect to other road users. So we can see that 19.7% of our elderly having that issue. So that can significantly contribute to high risk in driving. So even though majority of the respondents score low risk, right? But we can see, as I mentioned earlier, domain 5 is one of the interesting findings that we may need for further investigation. Right? The second result that we can see here, okay, so the result shows that no significant association, okay, between stress level and road traffic accident using the Fisher exact. So we can see that even though the score of the PSS10 is high, but again there is no significant association with the domain score. That means indirectly that our elderly drivers, they still can maintain their good driving attitude, either they are driving under the high level of stress. Okay. So we can see that the significant and probability, the p-value, were used to interpret the relationship between the data and the hypothesis. Okay, as the p-value exceeds 0.05, the analysis conclude that the perceived stress as measured by the Malay PSS10 is not significantly associated with ASDS 46 level. Okay. Alright, as a conclusion and recommendation, so older drivers, we know that experience multiple stressors, okay, and we cannot deny it in Malaysia context. I think even in global context, including in Indonesia context, we are experiencing a lot of economic stress, okay, because of the daily demands. Other than that, biological and physical changes, okay, because when we pass the age of 40, so according to theory, majority of our body system will start to deteriorate. Okay, that is unreversible. All right. So this is the nature that we cannot reverse. So we understand and we appreciate that process is happening. All right. So yet many continues driving to maintain the independence and social participation. So we do not have many choices. Okay, mobility kind of compulsory. Okay, because as an independent people, so we need to make sure that we have the certain level of mobility. So with regard to that, we can understand why people keep mobile, because that is a sense of mobility and the sense of independence. Okay, so driving under stress, okay, increase the likelihood of error, okay, violation and accident. Even though elderly in Malaysia shows no relationship with the stress and their attitudinal issue, but there is always a potential, okay, to lead for driving cessation. Okay, many elderly drivers successfully manage stress. Okay, I believe that's what the Malaysian data shows, and recognize their own limitation. Okay, this contribute to safe driving behaviors. However, as an occupational therapist and dealing with a lot of elderly drivers in my clinic, so we believe that emotional and cognitive screening may become a compulsory in the future for licensing renewal. So these are the things that we already been proposed to the Ministry of Transport Malaysia to review and to revise the renewal licensing process in Malaysia. Alright, so inshallah this year we will present to Ministry of Transport. Okay, so we last but not least we acknowledge the study limitation. Okay, the lengthy nature of assessment tools, because the two assessment is a bit lengthy. For maybe the elderly may have some difficulties, and you know, as we all know that questionnaire, right? So people may respond it inaccurately. And then we also appreciate that 71 is considered very small size, right? So perhaps in the next study we will increase our number. We try to increase our number, and then we do experience that participants who reluctant to respond due to the time and privacy concern. Okay, because according to the ethics, they have the right to withdraw in the assessment if they feel that they are not comfortable with it. Okay, so those are, I think, the limitation, the common limitation. In fact, when we conduct the cross-sectional study and when we use the questionnaire. Alright, so with all that, thank you very much. So I pass over to Dr. Sharona for Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any question or comments from the audiences, please? All right. So, Dr. Ghazali, being honest with you, this is the slide that I expect everyone to have it. Everything is very clear.
Oh,
so things are in order, and you have all your citation. However, I wanted to take it seriously to update your literature review, please. So you do have JUSU 2013, Law 2015 in introduction. So it's quite like, I mean, older than 5 years is not very accepted.
Okay.
And there is no more comment. I have questions from you. My dear, is there any rule regarding age limitation for public transportation drivers, like, I mean, bus drivers in Malaysia? Do they have any, like, I mean, age limitation? Like, I mean, anyone older than 60 is not allowed, or 70 is not allowed to be a public driver? Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sharona. Actually, we Malaysia, and we have slightly different rules and regulations compared with Singapore. Okay, for example, in Malaysia, under the Road Transport Act 1987, you still can drive as long as you have a valid driving license, no matter either you are passing the age of 60 or 70. Okay, but in Singapore, Like in Singapore, for example, if you want to become e-hailing, for example, okay, or Grab, so it is compulsory to undergo the health screening every year when you pass the age of 60. So those are the things we are trying to propose to the Ministry of Transport in Malaysia, because nowadays there are a lot of concern about the elderly drivers in Malaysia. You know, they start showing the significant risk of having accident in Malaysia. So we are not having it yet, but soon I think it will be implemented.
Yeah, it could be part of your recommendation, right? So that you can recommend to the ministry, as you said, because in your recommendation, I didn't see that, but you can mention that there should be some conditions for anyone older than 74 years old, that they want to still drive. They should coming up with certain conditions like eye checkup annually, something like that.
Yes.
And one more question. You mentioned that your scope of study was Johor Bahru and Selangor, right? So was that urban area or suburban area? Because it's, the stress level is quite different.
Okay, Johor Bahru and Selangor actually considered as urban area in Peninsular Malaysia.
I know, but even Selangor, I used to live there for 10 years, my dear.
Okay.
Even Selangor has urban area and suburban area.
Oh, okay.
They have places that are still not very crowded. It's peaceful. So what I mean is that I want to know whether you have mentioned, you had it in mind that a stress level in urban area and suburban area is different.
Okay, for Selangor, for example, we conduct it in Klang Valley. So I think Dr. Sharona is aware about the Klang Valley is considered as
urban. Yeah, it's quite traffic jam and crowded.
And the stress level can be considered as high. Like in Johor, we choose Johor Bahru, so that is also quite similar in Klang Valley. So the stress level considered is high as well. So it's homogeneous.
All right. So maybe it's better that you could mention that both scope Johor Bahru and Selangor, in urban area.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Doctor.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate your work, and I hope to see you in other conferences. So can we have our next presenter, please? Give me a second. We have Muhammad Aziz Daniel. Good luck.
All right. A very good afternoon to our chairperson and our fellow audience. And today, I am Muhammad Aziz Daniel bin Norman, and you can call me Adi. And I will be presenting my research entitled Exploring Non-Optional Teachers' Needs on Mnemonics Teaching Module in Samarahan, Sarawak. So with me, I'm collaborating with Dr. Majid Ismail from UiTM and let us collaborate from Soloist Music Academy, Tehran. Alright. First, we go to the objective of the study. So the study is to assess non-optional teachers' needs in developing a mnemonics teaching module for improving basic musical notation among primary school students in Samarahan, Sarawak. So I want to highlight a few words. Maybe it is important in this research. And the first one is non-optional music teachers. What it means by non-optional music teachers is the teachers is not specialized or not specialized in the music education. For example, the teachers background from TESOL, came from background from PE, physical education, have to teach also music education in our primary school in Malaysia if there are shortage of music teachers. And also, I want to emphasize two more words. The second one is mnemonics. Mnemonics is a method for learners to improve their memory retention. or to memory recall. For example, I give you a very simple example. In Indonesia, we call warung kopi. They call it warkop, right? The second one, when we arrive in Jakarta, we arrive at the airport, right? Then they call the airport is bandara, which means bandar udara. So that one is a simple example of mnemonics. Okay, and next one, basic musical notation. I'm sure that in our primary school time, we ever learned this basic musical notation. For example, like semi-brief notation. Also, we can get waiver. Also, we have semi-brief. Okay, I will show you the example. Yeah. Okay. Here is the example of basic music notation that we teach in our primary school in Malaysia. So the first one here is semi-brief, dotted minimum, and crochet. And the image below is the example of the mnemonics that we use in primary school to teach. This one is E, G, B, D, F. So we simplify it by every good boy deserves fruit for improving the memory retention. Okay, so I will explain the importance point in our literature review. So the first one is the basic music notation is formally introduced at level 2, year 4 to year 6 in our education setting in Malaysia. And next is non-optional music teachers often enter the classroom with little music literacy and little understanding, because this is involving the non-optional teachers, so they don't have the basic knowledge to teach. Alright. Okay, next, music teachers facing difficulties in delivering the best teaching method by Dennis Tucker, 2021. Abdullah also stated that music teachers were not equipped with the skills and pedagogy to teach the complete skills required students, especially with the non-optional teachers. And teachers having difficulty accessing resource materials for music education, especially in Malay language, because as you all know, just now I told you the semi-brief notation, minimum, dotted minimum came from the British. So they are limited Malay language resource for our teachers, because we teach music education in our school using Bahasa Melayu, and also we have to give something or give modules to the teacher to help them to teach in classroom. Alright, this is, we go to the methodology first. The design of this research is quantitative. The framework that I use is Training Needs Assessment Model by Rosette, 1987. And also, we have 30 non-optional music teachers responded in Samarahan, Sarawak. And the instrument used consisting 28 items questionnaire, and also based on the Rosette domain. So before we distribute the questionnaire, we have a reliability test by using Global Alpha coefficient, and also we analyze the data using descriptive analysis. So this is the instrument reliability. So the reliability of the instrument was assessed using Global Alpha coefficient, which measures the questionnaire items before we distribute to the respondent in Samarahan, Sarawak. So the Global Alpha value of this questionnaire, 0.893 for 28 items. So this is aligned with the AicQoL2017. Any coefficient of 0.70 and above considered as acceptable reliability. Alright, this is the, as you can see here, this is the domain. We have 5 domains. One is optimal performances, actual performances, feelings, causes and barriers, and solution. The one I highlight with yellow color is the highest solution, which is mean 4.17. So the highest mean recorded is solutions domain, which means teachers need structured training and resources. And the lowest here is causes and barriers, which means 3.03, lowest mean. And the teachers face challenges such as lack of material. All right, we go to the next one. So teachers express high needs in most domains, especially the highest domain, solutions, and also indicate strong demand for teaching resources, training, and structured guidance. And courses barrier also is the lowest. Identify moderate, is considered as moderate. Challenge indicates lack of musical background, limited materials, and low confidence. And teachers show that positive attitude to the using mnemonics-based methods. As a whole, this study successfully identified key teacher needs and perception. We want to have a solid foundation before we develop and designing the teaching module. So this study is very important. And instrument reliability was high, which is equivalent to 0.893, which is aligned with Cohen et al. 2017. And teachers needs training, structured guidelines, and mnemonics-based activities for teaching notation effectively. I think that's it for me.
Sorry, I cannot hear. Is there any questions from the audience?
No, Doctor.
All right, so thanks, Mr. Daniel. Let me check with you a few things. So the study has been, has a scope in Sarawak, right?
Yes, correct.
All right. Public school or private school?
It's public school, government school.
Public. So I think the title needs a little bit of amendment, saying that in Samaran, public schools, right?
Yeah, it can be considered.
Yeah, please consider that, because it's like, I know that when anyone wants to apply for a job in private schools, they would ask for a specific bachelor degree in music, right?
Yeah.
So that means, please change the title and mention that it's the study was done in public school. Can you tell me how many non-optional music teachers do we have in Sarawak?
Approximately around 103, according to the
103. So it is out of how many? What's the total number of teachers?
The teachers, I'm not very sure, but as I read for last year is around in Samarahan alone is around 1,500 something. But I'm not sure the exact figure.
You're right, my dear. Can you make sure when you're doing some research, you have to coming up in your research background. When you're doing some study, you have to coming up to explaining the whole scenario. So in public schools in Sarawak, we have around 1,000 teachers. 103 of them are non-optional, so that means they are not professional in music. So what I'm expecting you is to put this kind of information with a correct reference in your slide.
Because the problem is the non-optional teachers in Samarang, there is no specific figure because the teachers come and go. But for example, I give you the one situation. For maybe year 1, this teacher teach music. Then next year, the teacher will not teach another subject. So the numbers may vary. So we have this problem to identify the specific number. That's the problem.
Maybe you can narrow down your study, saying that this is about non-optional music teachers in year 1 of public schools, and then according to all the year 1 teachers, you can check how many of them are non-optional. Because you should coming up with something logical. I was like confused. Nowadays, when you want to apply for any job, they will ask you for, even for the schools, like primary schools, they will ask for a specific bachelor degree. So when you mentioned that it's about non-optional music teachers, I thought you might talk about public schools. So that means there's something that you need to add in your slide for anyone who is reading your slides or listening to your presentation. And I was wondering, so if you take it as a problem identification, because I didn't see any problem identification in your slides. Did you have it? Did I miss it anywhere? Did you have problem identification? I didn't see it. I couldn't find it in your slide.
As I mentioned just now, the word non-optional music teachers refers to the teachers are
no,
not.
My dear, is it in your slide? As you mentioned, like objective of the study, do you have problem identification?
Yes, of course.
Do you have any kind of a slide? Regarding problem identification?
Yeah, the second. You can check on the second and third slide.
The second one is literature review.
No, after the title page.
So the one that I have, it's like title page, after that objective of the study.
That one. Yes, that
All
one.
right, okay. So the one that I have, it's not there. So in your problem identification, which I don't have the slide, maybe you have amended after they send it to me.
We cannot put everything inside the slide. Maybe after the paper is published, maybe you can check that, because we have limited slides, only 10 slides per presentation. So we have to.
Yeah, but you had a lot of. You have enough space in your objective of the study to divide it into 2, put it like objective, and then you put it like problem identification both, right? So what I'm saying is just to improve your own slides and presentation, my dear.
Sure.
So when you do not, I cannot see the problem identification. Maybe it's not in the slide that I have, but you have it in your own slide. You should coming up by saying that these are the numbers, and it can help you coming up with a conclusion and recommendation to the government, saying that according to this problem identification and this kind of references, maybe we should coming up with the idea of hiring lecturers that they are having at least bachelor degree in music.
Sure, I will consider that. Thank you for.
To support your own conclusion and discussion, you need to coming up with having objective at the same time problem statement. So if you have it in your slides, which I don't have it in mine, can you share again the page for problem identification?
Actually, before we present, they have a specific template, so I follow the specific template for each of the slide. So I didn't give full.
You didn't put it there.
Yes.
All right. So, but in future, I would suggest you to make it like when you have objective coming up with the problem. It's very important. And your references, they are older than 5 years, my dear. So try to update your citations too.
All right. Sure. Thank you for the recommendation.
All right. So good luck with your future studies.
All right.
I'll have no more questions.
Dr. Sharona.
Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good afternoon. Salam perkenalan. As for today is quite late in the evening, I'll be starting off with the issues first rather than speaking about my title. Now, let us go back to Malaysia, across Malaysia, just a glimpse about what's happening in the school system. So what happened currently or for the last few years is that there's a rapid property values increase and life costs increase in the urban area, causing a lot of people moving out from the urban area into the suburban area. So what happened is that in the suburban areas, the schools has been having issues for having students number exceeding the actual spatial capacity. Ended up the classrooms in the schools, either the primary schools or the secondary schools, are overcrowded. Also at the same time, causing the pupils or the learners, the students having the right opportunity to access to a lot of learning facilities in the schools. So, in other words, what I'm trying to highlight is that this scenario of what I have just shared earlier, causing specifically for the teachers to have limited diversity in their pedagogical approaches. It means that they're more restricted to one simple or one common pedagogy, which is just restricting their teaching and learning in the classroom space. At the same time, when the teachers having that kind of issue, the pupils also, in other words, are having similar limitation, which means that they're not having the experience which they're supposed to, because the entire learning is actually happening in the classroom entirely. So, just recently, last year, about 2025, throughout the year, we have been listening to these issues about the government is proposing vertical schools. So, what do you mean by vertical schools? Vertical schools are basically multi-story schools proposed to be developed in city centers to overcome the growing population in the city centers like in Kuala Lumpur, in Johor Bahru, Penang, Putrajaya. So what happened, the vertical schools idea, it means that they're going to have the learning in a multi-story building ranging from 10 to 17 stories. Imagine schools in the future, Malaysia, where our children will be learning in such schools. So for that issue, what I'm presenting today is I'm looking into how the school spaces as catalysts for learning, insights from Malaysian primary school pupils. So in other words, we're looking into what are the potential of space for to improve the learning of the pupils, but not from our perspective as a researcher, but also from the perspective of the pupils themselves. I'm Nick Farhana Yasari, you may call me Nikki. Along with my colleague, I have Dr. Kate Desiree from the University of Philippines online presenting with me today. Also, another two colleagues of mine, Dr. Aida Tufazli and Dr. Nur Husna, we are all from Center of Architecture Studies, UITM Perchaan. Okay, just a little bit about how the paper specifically look into. Our paper is actually to understand how spatial, social, and cognitive elements work together to shape learning opportunities in schools from the perspectives of the pupils. Other words, we just wanted to see what the pupils think of the spaces that they have to learn in schools. What are the potentials of those spaces actually for them to be socializing with their friends, and then how that could be improving their learning experience. The objective, we have two different objectives for our study. Firstly is to identify what are the school spaces beyond the classroom space that pupils view as a supportive of their learning. Number two, we have to examine pupils' interpretation and evaluation of affordance of those school spaces. So in other words, we wanted to know what are the spaces that the pupils think would be useful for them for their learning. Also at the same time, what do they think of the spaces could afford for their learning? So this is entirely a research based on what the pupils think. Now, this particular research is based on the theory of affordance by J.J. Gibson in 1974, when J.J. Gibson actually discovered that affordance of the environment are what it offers the animal, what it provides or furnish either for good or ill. Other words, Gibson mentioned that affordance is what the environment could afford for the people, for the human. So, based on this theory of affordance, we use it and to identify what are the spaces in the context of school, what are the spaces affording for the pupils to learn. Alright, some review of literature. Now, I'll synthesize it in the best way I can. We can see that there are two different approaches of the literatures that we have reviewed. Firstly, on the global context and the Malaysian context. So generally, the references showing from for the last 5 years, showing how some of the literatures are in global context are agreeing how school environment actually not just environment, but is a social spatial system which combines the physical design, routines, and cultural expectations that shape learning possibilities. So as you see across the review by Carlson, saying that whatever changes that you make to school means that it will reshape the learning culture of the school. Whereas Clark and McPhee in 2021 mentioned that it's important to actually find out what the pupils' perspective to understand how the space actually live and negotiated and made meaningful in children's geographies. So what I can conclude from the review of from the global context is that they agree how complex the school environment is, because it's just not a place or environment for the pupils to stay there and spend and learn, but it covers a lot more. So it's about learning cultures. It's about socializing with the friends. So it's more complex than what we understand a school should be. So as for the Malaysian context, the reviews for the last few years, the last 5 years, mentioned more towards how learning is centered on the indoor, or learning is conducted primarily in the classroom-centric learning cultures. So as mentioned by Nawawi, mentioning that especially Malaysian primary schools mostly are operated within the classroom-centric learning and standardized with standardized layouts, schedules, tight schedule routines, and restricted areas to varied learning settings. This is what is covered by Nawawi. As for Abdullah Hashim, he mentioned that it's important to actually recognize what are children's preferences in terms of spatial and well-being, so to integrate their voice and evaluate the learning environment, and as well as you can see the other two, Hamzahi in 2023, as well as Salih and Ahmad 2022, mentioned that spatial quality influences teachers' capacity to diversify. What we can see that learning environment is just not to focus on species, but a lot more. Moving on. Okay, how do we go about conducting our research? Now, as you can see, we conducted a focus group design charrette. What is a design charrette? It's an intensive workshop which involved various stakeholders and experts brought together to address one particular design issue. For in this context of our research, we actually bring together some group of children in the schools to sit down for at least 3 hours sessions where they have to come out with some brainstorming and some photo taking as well as some design sketching together. So what you see on the screen is actually the procedures that was conducted. And started with an introductory briefing when myself and McLeod were giving the children what to do throughout, and then some activities sequence to be based on one particular design task that they have to fulfill. So the work where was it conducted? We have chosen Puncak Alam, which is a district, an area in Kuala Selangor, Malaysia, involving only 3 primary schools. Here specifically the national primary schools, aka Sekolah Kebangsaan, and then who are involved? We involve 124 pupils in our studies, and as you can see, every school is ranging between 41 to 42 pupils only. So, based on the design charrette, it was something that we have personally have tested when doing my PhD. And what happened is that I wanted to try the same method applicable in the context of Malaysian schools. So, as you can see, the design charrette itself involves instruments. There are 3 different templates being prepared for every of the activity. So the students will work every activity based on the template given. So the brainstorming we have the template 1, the activity 2, we have a template 2, and the final activity 3 or the design sketch where the children will be involving individually to sketch on what the design task is given to them based on the template 3. Okay. Kate, are you there?
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Nikki. So now I'll be sharing the findings of our paper resulting to the analyzed data from the design charrette that led to the 2 key findings. Firstly, I will be discussing the categories of space for learning. Across all 3 schools, as you can see on the slide, which I cannot see at the moment from my screen, pupils place a much stronger emphasis on learning within the school building rather than the wider school site. Moreover, pupils from schools 1 and 3 mainly identified basic teaching spaces and learning resource areas as their primary learning environments, reflecting a strong classroom-centered learning approach. In contrast, School 2 actually shows a more selective use of indoor spaces. Other areas such as halls, dining and PE spaces, staff and administration, and storage appear far less frequently, suggesting that they play a secondary role in pupils' learning. Overall, the use of school site spaces is low, although School 2 makes greater use of these areas, particularly in formal social gardens. Schools 1 and 3, on the other hand, show very limited outdoor use, mainly for outdoor PN gardens, while habitats and non-net site areas are rarely used.
I have the slides with me. You can go ahead.
Okay, so
I think
for
they
the
have
next,
the slide in the main room. Yeah.
yeah. So they stopped again. Maybe they have internet issue. So on the next slide, although you cannot see it at the moment, is the slide on the other key finding that we found, which relates to the affordance of space for learning. Pupils identified 6 main affordances, namely discussing, researching, designing, resourcing, constructing, and presenting. Across all schools, especially School 3, constructing is the most dominant affordance, highlighting a strong emphasis on hands-on and making activities. Discussing is also consistently high, showing that school spaces commonly support collaboration. Designing and resourcing appear at moderate levels, while researching and presenting are the least represented, indicating limited support for inquiry-based and communication-focused activities. Overall, the pupils generally perceive the school spaces to be strongly associated with active and constructive mode of engagement. On the next slide, shows the photographs taken by the pupils, highlighting a range of school site spaces that afford learning, including gardens, lobbies, parking areas, and plazas. Our findings suggest that pupils' experience are actually shaped by both school design and learning culture. Thus, indoor focused schools tend to reinforce conventional classroom-based learning, while schools with more accessible outdoor environments support more social, exploratory, and greater autonomy, creativity, and collaboration for learning beyond the classroom. And finally, on the slide 9, the pupils strongly associate learning with hands-on and collaborative activities. They learn best by doing and making, supported by discussion which include talking, sharing, and peer interaction. However, the limited presence of researching and presenting affordances highlight gaps in inquiry, based learning, and structured communication. And there you go. I move it back to Nikki, hopefully, on our last slide for the conclusion.
Okay, I shall just continue to the conclusion. Yeah, sorry. Okay. So, can you hear me?
Yes, we're already on the last slide.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, anyway, I'll just continue with the conclusion of our paper this time around. So, as we have discovered for our paper this time around, we can, as mentioned in discussion, we found out that how there are two important findings in which that what we found is that indoor-oriented schools actually will more reinforce the traditional or the classroom-based activities. But if the learning is conducted outdoor, it will somehow enable the students to be more explorative and to have more collaborative learning between them. The second key findings for our paper this time around, we found out that the children, the pupils, they often see the school spaces to allow them to do learnings that is more hands-on, or other words, we can say that they're more interactive tasks. The school spaces allow them to do that. Unfortunately, what the school spaces that they have or what they have currently do not allow them to have or to do activities for referencing or researching, either indoor or outdoor, which suggests this study that the opportunity for inquiry and communication should be given extra attention whenever we design school. So, and also for the education, the policy to involve to significant findings from our paper to actually involve the pedagogy to allow the students, the children, to do variety of learning activities in concurrent with 21st century skills. Now, what we can conclude is that to improve pupils' learning in schools, we do not only focus on how the school looks like or how the spatial is being configured, but also we also have to know, or we have to also to pay attention to how the school culture works. So that is all for our presentation today. Again, thank you so much.
Okay, we can proceed without the camera, right?
Yes.
So first of all, very well done. I appreciate your research. It was very informative. I personally enjoyed your presentation. And well done. A few things that I want to ask you to enhance is, first of all, you do have a very proper citation and literature review and referencing. The only thing is that there are some references like Voland, which is 2012, Chow Chawla, if I don't mistake, in 2013, and one for Gibson, 1979. So they are very old. I suggest you to update your citation. I mean, only few of them. Most of them are within the 5 years. Yeah, but few of them are older than 5 years. Please have it in mind. And one more thing, there is a guideline for the establishment of primary school in high-rise flat by MOE, which I have you now in the picture. So which I could download it. According to the MOE guideline, there are some rules and regulation regarding the light and ventilation and the size of the classrooms and so on. I thought maybe you can use it in your research as a reference because it's done by MOE. So, and for example, regarding the light and ventilation, direction of the windows for the natural light, and if the PDF that I could get from the site of MOE. Have you had the access to that too? Yes, Sharona. Yeah, sure. Because I wish I could see it in some part. You can just add it because the most important governmental body that you have to collaborate in this research with them is MOE, right? So it would be nice to have that you consider the issue that they mentioned. One more thing, all the pictures are taken by you, I mean, by your team, or downloaded by the internet?
The photos on the slide I presented is taken by the students, by the pupils.
All right. So what I meant is that you can, under the pictures, you can always coming up by saying that the source of the images, right? Make it clear. So being honest with you, I really enjoyed your presentation. Everything is just as it was needed. And I have no more comment other than the few things that I said. You have to update some of the references and highlight that you have been through the guideline of MOE and mentioning it. Right? Thank you. That was very informative and very well presented. Thank you, everyone. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, Dr.
Salam alaikum, my
Sharona.
dear. You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you. Thanks to you for your good presenting. So can we have our next and last presentation, please?
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good afternoon to Doctor and distinguished participants. So my name is Nurul Akmaliza binti Muhammad Naisi from International Islamic University Malaysia, IIUM, and I representing my co-author from UiTM and also University of Utah. We will present our study entitled The Mediating Role of Relational Value in Cultural Ecosystem Services Assessment for Subjective Well-being. So basically the focus of this presentation is not only what cultural ecosystem services contribute to our well-being, but also through how this contribution actually occurs, specifically through relational value. So we start with a fundamental question, that is, what actually a nature offer for people? So there are four main types of ecosystem services that we would like to focus on one of the type of ecosystem services, that is cultural ecosystem services. I will address the cultural ecosystem services as CES, which is also known as non-material benefits that we obtain from our ecosystem. assessment, maybe due to its nature as being intangible benefits. So we actually motivated by the land planning, the real land planning conflict, particularly in Malaysia. So the first example is happening in SICF, Shah Alam Community Forest in Selangor, where the gazettement of the area is still continuing until today due to the land ownership conflicts. And the second example, which is a quite interesting case, where the gazettement of Kuala Langat North Forest Reserve is actually being retracted due to the strong public resistance. So these resistance are not driven solely because of the biodiversity argument, but also because of the people's sense of belonging and emotional ties to the natural environments. So these two cases actually demonstrate on how people's sense of place and emotional attachment actually can restricted and should be included in the consideration for any development projects. So due to that, we discover a few theoretical gap or problem statements. So first of all is the lack of theoretical clarity in actually explaining the relationship between human-nature interactions, and also majority of the CEI studies actually blur the distinction between benefits, services, and values. And the most importantly is there is a lack of empirical studies that actually treated relational value as a separate, distinct construct in CEI's assessment. So therefore, the aim of this paper is actually to conceptually review and operationalize relational value as a distinct construct, particularly in the relationship between environmental settings, cultural practices, and also subjective well-being. So methodologically, this paper actually conducted a conceptual review. We started with a search strategy on CES assessment between the year 2015 until 2025. And then we do the manual screening, the inclusion criteria, including the studies, peer-reviewed article that include cultural ecosystem services studies only. And as a result, there are 43 relevant papers that has been conceptualized and operationalized, linking to CES and also subjective well-being. So there are three main key terms emerged from the review. The first one is environmental setting, such as we have our nature, infrastructure amenities, recreational opportunities, and then the naturalness of the area. So it can be seen as enabling condition for CES provisions. And the next one is cultural practices, such as we go to the park for walking, picnicking, enjoying the view of the nature, and even jogging. So that was seen as the cultural practices that represent human nature expressions. Okay, and the last one, the most importantly, relational value are consistently appear as a mediating mechanism through the relationship between environmental setting, cultural practices, and also subjective well-being. So we further conducted a thematic review. From the word frequency analysis on relational value, we can see that there are related terms such as human, environmental, ecosystem, and also the relationships. Meanwhile, the Sankey diagram on relational value illustrates that the dimensions of RV or relational value started from aesthetic and recreational importance and move towards a broader dimensions of RV, such as social cohesion, sense of place, and also environmental stewardship. And we also examine existing CES framework. So the first one is from the FISH 2016. So we can see that we developed a CES framework that started with the identifications of environmental species and influence cultural practices and benefits. However, he conceptualized the relational value not as a separate construct, but it falls under the identity here, under the dimensions of cultural ecosystem benefits. Similarly, we have another cultural ecosystem services framework that was developed by Intergovernmental Platform Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, which is later modified by SOLA 2024. So you can see that from this framework, we have a value system of nature, which are the intrinsic value, instrumental and relational value. Okay, so intrinsic, we can see that it's come directly from the nature itself, and instrumental and relational value is seen as the final outcome or the final services of the nature. Okay, so based on these two existing CES framework, we proposed a more simplified operational framework that actually identify environmental setting as CES provisions, and then the cultural practices performed in that setting, and how actually relational value function as a mediating mechanism that form a meaningful relationship between human and the nature, and how actually these variables interact between each other and contribute to our subjective well-being. So based on this framework, we developed 7 hypotheses to actually test the direct effects of relational values towards subjective well-being, and then the mediating effects of relational value between the relationship between environmental setting, cultural practices, and also subjective well-being. So basically, this paper actually introduced and proposed a new framework in evaluating CES, and for the future direction of this research, we would like to conduct empirical testing to test the relationship of these dimensions for our subjective well-being. So as a conclusions, this paper actually contribute in 3 key ways to stress on the integrations of environmental setting, relational value, and subjective well-being in a coherent CES assessment framework, and also advance the understanding of relational value in ecosystem services. And we hope that after we got the empirical result from the testing of the framework, it can have practical implications for park managers and urban land planners to actually incorporate relational value dimensions into CES assessment framework to be considered before any development project were processed accordingly. I think that's all from my presentation. Thank you so much.
So thank you, Mike. Do you have any questions or feedbacks from the audiences, please? All right, so there's no question there, right? I cannot see the audience. No? Heather? All right, my dear. Okay. Thanks for your presentation. And the thing is that it's a lot of information. I can see that you did a lot of work, hard work, but it's very difficult for me to stick and join this information together. I need your help to understand. So I think it's your research background. You have mentioned that these non-material benefits of the it's very difficult to evaluate, right? Non-material benefits. So you said that it's very crucial and difficult to measure.
Yes.
So, but still you can measure it, right?
Yeah, you can measure it through the CES framework by its effects towards our subjective well-being. So because we cannot see the benefits.
Okay, so have it in mind, bear in mind. So let's go to your research background. In the research background, so first of all, in the first picture, it's Shohalam Community Forest, right? And the second one is Kuala Langkod Kailan Fair, right? On the third column, you have mentioned that these cases show that relation value people's interests, right?
Yes.
And so on, emotional and ties with the nature. But when it comes into your methodology, so you said that it's only some kind of like review paper. You only have done a screening the previous databases, like all this like articles and papers. So I wanted to understand by your explanation, how did you measure and define the people's interest? Did you ask them like, by questionnaire, or did you interview them?
You mean from my problem statements earlier or from my research background?
We are now in research background. In the research background, you have put the book for when development overlooks the relationship between the people and nature.
Okay.
Right?
Yes, correct.
These cases show that relational value, people's interest. So how did you define that? Is it like when development overlooks? Which source is behind your statement?
Okay.
Or did you do it by yourself? Is it like kind of observation or questionnaire? How did you define that people have interest towards these two cases that you mentioned?
Okay, I think we got that from the secondary data collections from the newspaper article, where we find out that there is issues from the development project occur. So there are previous, actually not our studies, but previous studies that mentioning the project overlook the people preferences and interests.
All right, I hope you understand my point. When you do not put any of your references in the content in your slide, I will get confused as a reader, right? So it is very important, and please take it very seriously to put your references, because for me it was like I tried to stick this information together. How did you measure the people's interest that you mentioned here? On the other hand, I had in your research methodology that you didn't do any observation or questionnaire. It was a review paper. So if it's going to be like reviewing the other papers, it's very important. Please take it seriously to put all the references in your slides, because last week when I was reading your slide, I was like, if it's going to be considered as a review paper, I need more references. At the same time, you put lots of effort to do this research. I can understand review papers are not easy. It's very challenging, but still I can see Chan 2016. It is not what we expect from a review paper. So no reference, or another one, Fish 2016, Plain 2017. So what I'm saying is that in review paper, we do not accept any reference older than 5 years. Okay?
Okay.
Agree with me?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Please update your citation.
Right.
And then when we're coming up into your key findings, so the key findings and at the end, the conclusion, so there should be a very strong binding between problem identification, your objective, key findings and conclusions. So that means there should be a very smooth flow between this scenario, because the reason that you have done this research was that you have identified some problem and then you put some objectives with that, AMER objectives. So you have done lots of work to coming up with some solution to that problem. So it's very much appreciated if you can make it like a table. It's just a suggestion, it's recommendation that we can discuss with your co-authors. You can coming up in review papers with a table, with a chart saying that these are the problems and these are the objectives and these are the paper that you review to answer and get the key factors, key findings from the papers. There are some specific table and charts for the paper review that I suggest you to add it into your slides. It's make it more understandable.
All right, thank you so much for your suggestions.
And a lot of references missing, which I
thank you, Dr.
seriously suggest you to review.
Okay, sure. We will take into considerations for our published paper later.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, better to do that. So, thanks again, Prof. Yusuf, and all the presenter and the conference directors for having me. I enjoyed all your presentation. I learned from you. Thank you, and I hope.
Thanks, Sharona. Sorry about
You're
the
welcome.
It's been a long session.
It's fine.
Apologies.
It's fine, bro. No. It's fine. No need to apologize.
Looking
So
forward
I
that
hope to
you.
see you soon.
Yeah, looking forward that you be our anchor breakout chairs for our forthcoming, which will be in sometime in March, April, after the Eid celebration week in Kuching. So hope you'll be around.
Wow, inshallah.
Okay.
All right.
When did
Thank
you
you,
come over?
bro. Have a good day.
When did you come over in Kuching? Live. Think about it.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I will think about it.
Thanks again.
Thank you, Dr. Sharona.
All right. Thank you. Bye bye.
Yes.
You're welcome. Thanks, everyone. Good luck. Bye bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We've got our breakout chair number 3 waiting already. Thank you, Sharona. Bye bye. Assalamualaikum.
Okay, now moving on.
Assalamualaikum.